Welcome to Meza Talks. I'm Colin, joined by Yaya here today. Our works with B2B SaaS marketing teams. And right now, across every client we touch, we're seeing the same pattern. The buying journey has shifted in a way that's hard to overstate. Buyers aren't just coming to the homepage and reading case studies anymore. They're asking Claude, they're asking Perplexity, they're asking models that were trained on content from across the web, and they're getting an answer back that may or may not include you. That changes everything. What you publish, where you publish it, whether your site's machine readable, whether an AI agent can work on your behalf, whether your CEO's voice shows up when somebody prompts a model about a category you operate in. Marketing teams are rebuilding their entire operating model around this in real time. Most of them are doing it without a playbook. But I think that's what makes today's conversation really interesting. Matt has spent the last decade plus building the playbook for how individual experts become influential in their fields. He co founded Proudmouth. He's guested on more than 1,000 podcasts. So I guess this brings that number up even further.
Mhm.
And the system he built for financial advisors is literally the modern definition of what authority through content looks like in a regulated, relationship heavy industry. Then last December, he made the jump. He left the company he co founded to become chief evangelist at Zox, an AI first platform built specifically for advisors. Same audience he's been serving for over 20 years, but now from the other side of the table, from human led authority to AI leverage workflows. Watching that transition from the person who wrote both playbooks on both sides is something that I've really been wanting to get on tape for months now. So, Matt, welcome. Before we dig into the big topics today, I'd love to get your story, who you are, what you're doing at Zox, and what about this moment in the industry really has you fired up.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So at Proudmouth, Kirk, my partner and I, we tested everything on me. So we were influence accelerators. That was the entire system that him and I had built to help really people find a micro niche and then dive deep and win. Right. And so my micro niche has been since 2006, independent financial services professionals. Now I've kind of expanded that a little bit here and there, like I do. I am known somewhat in insurance because I've spoken at a couple of big conferences. Wirehouses, I'm not too deep into that world, mostly just because it's such a different culture. They're not fiercely independent and entrepreneurial like most of the people that I work with. And so we tested a bunch of stuff. And to be honest, some of it didn't go very well. It was bad. But some of it worked really, really well. And last year, I was voted the 10th most influential person in financial services by a very well-known organization. That can come across as being kind of an arrogant statement. And I don't want you to think that because I worked really, really, really hard. Like you said, playbook, dude. We built a playbook. We know exactly how frequently you need to post, what kind of content you need to post. And now with AEO, how do you show up and, basically AI search engines to make it so that you are the answer. That's a key thing that we'll probably talk about. You are the answer that people are looking for. Yeah, that's just basically now what happened in September-ish of last year, my wife fell and hasn't been able to walk since. So she had an infection on her spine that we were tracking. They messed up surgery dates. And literally the day before she was supposed to have surgery, she was paralyzed. And so I called my business partner up, Kirk, who I have known him for 10 years. We were partners for 8, and I'm bawling, dude. I'm like, I can't be your partner anymore, dude. I gotta take care of my wife. Insurance sucks. I've got to do something different. So I had to really, because I was an entrepreneur. Okay, I worked all the time, right? I worked on weekends. After my kids went to bed, my wife went to bed. I was still answering emails or whatever. That was my life. 60, 70, 80 hours a week was my normal. And I needed that to be a normal work week. So I've been trying very, very hard to be kind in financial services because there's a huge amount of ego in this industry. It's actually really ridiculous. And I am the opposite of that, or at least I try. So I made a couple of phone calls to friends and I said, hey guys, this is what happened. I got to take care of my wife. I still need a job. I couldn't be a good partner for Kirk, who I love dearly and I love his family. Help me. Because I'm also Gen X. I don't ask for help. Dude, like, it's not me, right? I don't do that. And so my friends were like, holy crap, Matt's asking for help. So this is serious. And so through a series of very fortunate events, I ended up meeting with the director of sales here at Zox, who is a friend of a friend. And he was like, wait a second. So you're on the market. You are one of the most influential people in financial services. What do you want to do for us? And of course I was prepared because I'm smart. And I was like, well, you guys are advertising that financial advisors will save 10 hours a week. And I was like, so what are they going to do with that time? And he just started laughing and he's like, okay, that's a good marketing angle. And so I pitched to the powers that be here at Zox something called the Now What Marketing Campaign, which is a series of weekly videos, mostly daily videos, plus a whole marketing plan from a content strategy. I said, this is what I want to do for you guys. I want to go to conferences. I want to get testimonials and all this stuff. And so they hired me. And I started roughly in December. And since December, so this is crazy. So this is how influence works. My posts have gotten over almost, I'm like 50,000 shy. So hopefully at the end of this week, this will change. 500,000 impressions
Nice.
and over 180,000 people have interacted with my posts since December. So here's
Outstanding.
the thing, guys. This works, right? What Kirk and I built, I am the embodiment of what Proudmouth built, right? And now I'm putting it into practice in a highly flooded marketplace where everybody's coming out with AI, which should terrify all of you, by the way, because most of it really sucks. But yeah, so that's how I've landed here, and I'm very, very happy. It's an unbelievable organization. The leadership here is crazy good. I can't believe that they keep hiring these really, really nice, kind, but really wicked smart people. It's pretty freaking cool.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing your story. There's so many like trails that I
Yeah.
kind of want to pursue, but just hearing your story reminds me a little bit of kind of something that I went through recently, which is I started my own agency, Belt Creative, and I really reached an inflection point where the work, as you described, like 60, 80 hours a week. And it felt like it was silently killing me. I wasn't able to show up and be present for my family and my friends. And I was really starting to question, like, I've built this really nice prison for myself. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
do I do? I've got people like on my team that rely on me,
Mm-hmm.
really good clients, great relationships, but I can't do this anymore. And serendipitously, it was around that time that Yaya reached out to me, told me that he'd just had his own agency acquired by the Bez Agency Network, and it just started a conversation. And
Oh.
being able to make that jump to basically have Belt Creative join the Bez Agency Network. Now I'm not responsible for everything. I'm
Mm.
responsible for a lot of the marketing stuff. But I've got, again, like you were saying, Kid Smart, kind, like some of the best people in the world. I feel like I get to work with every day. And what felt like at the time, I was like, is this just a thing that's ending? It was so deeply personal to me. Ended up becoming an opportunity, and I was able to take a lot of the stuff that I've learned from that experience, bring it to the work that I'm doing now. And it sounds like you've kind of had been able to do a similar transition of continuing the work, everything that you've learned, and now you're just doing it in an environment where you've got access to more resources.
Unbelievable amount of resources. I mean, and that's one of the things, two things. One is more of a joke. You know, I'm really only 26 years old. So this is because of my entrepreneurial lifestyle as
It'll do that to you.
I know really it's brutal, but you know, and I think, you know, I've talked to Kirk about this. So I've still communicated with my business partner, but like every other week we talk because I love the guy. And, you know, we really kind of grew up in this business together. Um, and one of the things that he said to me is, what have you really learned since you've been gone? And I was like, we should have taken money. I was like, we should have brought in investors, dude. Like, honestly, there was an inflection point. So Proudmouth specifically, we started with 0 clients. Kirk and I both shut down. I was a consultant. He was a marketer, website designer, branding guy. We basically shut down our businesses and then didn't have a client for about 4 or 5 months. It was tough, man. Like we were scraping together, just trying to do like little side consulting gigs to pay the bills. And then COVID hit. And we went from like doing 10 shows a week to 100. Right. I mean, and it was just, it was so difficult to scale while still providing excellent service, still doing the thought leadership stuff that we wanted to. So I did all of the interviews at the beginning. I did all of the interviews, all of the post production. Okay. For every one of these shows. Now it was audio only back then, and I'm very good at that. I started doing radio when I was 13. So I've been doing this for quite a while. We couldn't maintain. Right. And I think back, and of course, you know, hindsight's 2020, but man, there were people knocking at our door like, hey, did you use $250,000? We're like, we'll be
Mhm.
fine. I'm like, oh, we should have taken that. And so, capital is always the biggest issue, especially in marketing agencies, right? Because there are a lot of agencies out there. And when you can be infused with capital, which we just did a Series B, raised 45 million at Zox. And so we're not capital restrained. Like my boss will say that all the time. I'm like, hey, I'd like to do this. And he's like, okay, that's not a big ask. You're not asking for 50 grand. You're asking for $500. Let's go.
Mhm.
And that's just, that changes everything, especially in the world of marketing. I mean, I don't think I would have hit that level of impressions and that level of engagement if I didn't have this team, another team behind me, really, really helping out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really great point. Matt, you mentioned something during your initial intro that I wanted to dive in a little bit deeper into, and Colin actually just mentioned it too. So when you're building a business, a lot of people kind of tend to build a prison for themselves. And it's kind of like, now I just work in this job that I have created for myself. Relaying that back into influencing or marketing in general, now today, the kind of advice that people give to founders, I think especially in the marketing space or agencies or startups, is you as the founder need to be the brand, and you need to go out and you need to be in all of the content and in all of the ads and all these different things. And I think that a lot of people are afraid that you're just creating another prison for yourself, because if all the content, all the ads and everything has my face on it, now I need to just continue doing that forever. How did you guys approach that, and how do you think about that kind of catch 22?
Well, I think it's wrong. All right. And so, on a lot of levels, I am a professional paid influencer. This is what I do. This is what I practice. I have a very small set of skills, guys. I mean, on the grid. I mean, I'm bad at most things, right? But you put me behind a microphone in front of a camera on stage, dude, I am in heaven. And that's not normal. I am not normal. And I think what happens a lot of times is founders, especially, think that they have to be the face. Like my business partner, dude, he was the CEO. Kirk ran everything. I didn't run anything. Right. He did all HR, all hiring, all CFO stuff. I mean, he ran the business and
Hmm.
I was the face of Proudmouth. That's what we did. Right. If you don't have that, if you don't have the me, don't be it yourself, because most of you suck. Most of you suck. Most of you are terrible on camera. You don't know how to use it. You don't know how to practice. You haven't been through training. Dude, I've been through PR training. I've been through keynote speaking training. I went through TED Talk training. I mean, I know exactly the distance I need to be from my microphone and the camera and where I can move my head. So if I don't, the glare comes in. All of these little things that come from hours and hours, the 10,000 hours of practice, that's me in a nutshell. You look at when Steve Jobs passed and Tim Cook took over, right? That is the perfect example of Tim Cook never should have been on stage. Never. He still shouldn't be. Like, I don't think Altman should be on stage. I don't think a lot of these, really, Elon Musk should never be on a stage, right? I mean, because they're not professional trained. I mean, basically, guys, I'm an actor, right? I'm just an actor who has a very, very, very hyper focused niche, right? I get scripts. My team sends me scripts. I just shot 2 of them today, right? Where I have a teleprompter. I know how to use the teleprompter. But that's the thing. Don't create another prison for yourself. Find somebody who loves your business, who believes in the same things that you do. Pay them well and let them do their job, right? And that's one of the neat things about Zox is my boss, Michael Murphy, who's a brilliant marketer, right? He's like, Matt, you're the tip of the spear, because I'm doing things that the rest of the marketing team isn't ready to do, because I can do this, right?
Hmm.
You need me to shoot 5 videos a day. I can shoot 5 videos a day. I don't, because that's too much content. But please, please don't try to be something you're not. My old mentor in this industry, he goes by Omani Carson now. He said to me a long time ago, like 2007, he said, Matt, I can take all of the things that I'm kind of good at and spend an enormous amount of time and get a little bit better. Or what I can do is I can find the things that I'm good at and then I can become great.
Yeah.
And that
Spot
has
on.
been my mantra really since then, where I'm going to try to be great at 1 or 2 things, because generally I suck at most other.
I love that so much. There's so much advice out there that, oh, you got to work on your weaknesses and kind
Nope.
of like be this average person across the board and say, no, just find the thing that you're really good at and just be excellent at it and do a lot of it. And actually, it's interesting. So I lead our M&A team at Van. So I go by and buy agencies. And one of the things that we consider during an acquisition process is what we call key man risk. Meaning, if this guy
Yeah,
gets hit by a bus, what
that's right.
happens to the business tomorrow? And if you're on all of the ads and on all of the content, that immediately brings down the value of the business. So
Yep.
that's another thing to consider.
Well, and that's why I was bawling when I called my partner and said I had to step down, because I was the face of Proudmouth, right? And now luckily they brought in another person. She's amazing, amazing. She's great on camera, wonderful energy, whip smart, right? And so, but there was a lull. There was a big, Matt was Proudmouth, and now we have other people who are doing that. And so, and that key man risk was something, I mean, I think every business should have key man insurance, right? A lot of
Hmm.
businesses don't even have that, which is ridiculous, because, if Kirk passed, his family was screwed. He's got a big family.
Yeah.
Now, we still have that in place. I still own part of the company, but it's the same thing, right? And so I'm still, by the way, I still promote Proudmouth. I don't work for them anymore. But it's still something that I'm wildly passionate about. I'm very proud of what we built.
I think that's fantastic. I think something that if I could go back in time and speak to like my past self to avoid the building your own prison dilemma would be, build systems, don't take on everything yourself. And then once you have the system in place, then find the right person to own that piece of the system. And that's how you scale. I think that's really, really hard, of course, like when you're first starting out, but especially maybe when you're at an inflection point in your business, maybe you've just gotten some capital in, or you're just reaching that next stage of growth. Or if you are like literally everyone right now, we are looking at the AI era and trying to figure out what do we do with our marketing strategy. That's a really good time, I think, to reflect and start building those systems in place and getting the right people in those positions so that you can scale in the new landscape that we've got going on.
Yeah. Well, I want
So
to chase that rabbit. Can I chase that rabbit with
I
you
was
here
I
for a
was just
minute?
gonna say, please do.
Yeah, I mean, so I just this morning I was interviewed by this woman in Germany who's doing a research project on where she thinks different categories are going to be in 10 years in AI. So we were talking about marketing, and she's like, "Where do you think marketing is going to be with all of this AI?" And I said, "Well, first off, we're making huge mistakes right now. Marketers are getting lazy, dude. Right?
Mhm.
They're just throwing a stupid prompt into GPT or Claude and thinking it's going to be good enough, and it's contextually wrong or tonally it's incorrect or whatever. I believe that where we exist as marketers, because even though I work for an AI company, I'm still a marketer, right? That's what I do for a living. Is I think we need to remember that the human part always wins. Right. There's been some really amazing studies that people want to see faces, right? But you get those AI generated faces that are just a little bit off. It's like it's like the fake backgrounds, right? Where you move a little bit and there's like a little halo. Man, that drives me crazy, right? And so that's the sort of stuff that I think are the small things. But here's the thing. I think what's going to succeed in marketing and where we're going to win as marketers is we just need to become more creative. Yes, do we need to have the systems? I agree. Do we need to be able to execute seamlessly and make sure we have product delivered on time? 1,000,000%. But not to be a jerk, but that's kind of table stakes, dude. Like my AI can do that, right? But what AI can't come up with is that great new unbelievable hook, that unbelievable marketing idea, that really well delivered piece of content that people are going to want to click on to find out more. Um, and I really think we need to lean into that. Now, I use AI every single solitary day, every day. I have two. I have GPT and Claude. I use them for very different reasons, but I can go into my GPT and I can ask it to write as if. So I have kind of three personas. So I've got my TED Talk persona, which is based off of super lovey-dovey hippie stuff. You help one person every day. And then because the mission for that is to spread magic, joy, and love into the world, right? So I've got that persona. Then I've got the persona of the author, right? Because I wrote a book called Shut the F Up and Listen. And so that has a very different tone. And then I have Matt Zoxguy, right? Which is really Matt at 11, but in a very different context, right? Because I'm talking about software. I mean, I'm talking, really different talking about stuff like that. And I'm talking about systems and integrations and MCPs and how to, system, oh yeah, prompt engineering is all that stuff, which is very different. But my AI knows those three different personas and I have projects for each. And so I was writing one today because Zox is moving into insurance and it's unbelievable what we can do. And this isn't an ad for that, but I was really surprised at the script, but it didn't sound like me. So I put that into the Matt GPT, Zox Matt, and I said, make this sound more like me. Was it perfect? No, I still had to change a couple of things, but I changed a couple of things. And dude, I busted out the script today. It took me 15 minutes. What would have taken me or a marketing team hours, because I know my marketing team spent hours on that, right? I was able to just tweak it just a smidge to make it more like me, which would be great for agencies. I want you to sound like Yaya, who owns this, who does this. So you got the Yaya project. And now all of a sudden, Colin, you're building scripts for Yaya. And he's like, damn, I've killed, this is awesome. I'm killing it. I had to tweak it a little bit, but that's where I think marketing is really heading. But I think a lot of people are just getting freaking lazy. They're just cutting and pasting stuff. And by the way, algorithmically, they hate it. Algorithms hate it. They don't like it. They're looking to see how many other times has this sequence of words been used by 3 million other people. That's because they're asking the same thing to their prompt.
100%. I think one of my favorite questions that I like to ask people on my team is I'll just like, we'll talk through a task or a project or something. And I'll ask them like, hey, you want to just screen share and like talk me through how you would use this? The number of times that it's literally just been like, open up a new ChatGPT window and just type in, write me a script for X. No context, no like custom agents, nothing. And of course, what it spits out is generic. There is no context, there's no information.
That's
But
right.
when you build out these like personas like you described, or agents, whatever you want to call them, organize them, you start to give more context. You start to give more understanding to the model, so it gets that first draft right. I find more
Yeah.
consistently, but again, it is the first draft. I think
First draft.
they've accelerated everything getting us to first draft, but human content is still necessary. You still need a person to read this and think, is this the best version of this content? Probably not. Probably needs a little bit more tweaking.
Well, and my team will laugh. They're like, Matt, you busted it out so fast. Like, it just happened. I shot a series of 3 videos for a follow up and then another follow up. So primary ad, if they clicked and they didn't take action, right? So it's that sort of chasing. And they're like, how did you do that so fast? I was like, I shot 15 versions of that video. Like, you think I'm not a one and done guy. I mean, I wish I was that good, but I'm not. But even in Hollywood, right? Because I really study actors. Like, I study process, preparation. Like, to be really nerdy, I had a whole pregame before I came on the show, because this is a show you're giving me a gift. Like, I have the opportunity to talk about something I'm passionate about to your audience, which is not my audience. I want to put on a good show. But when you look at directors, they'll be like, cut, let's do it again. Well,
Mm.
I just did it great. No, no, no. I want to see it again. This time I want you to do it
Yeah.
this way. So
Yeah.
I tried to do that. I tried, okay, was that too Muppety? Was it not Muppety enough? Was it too serious? Did I talk too quickly? Do I need to slow it down? Right. And all of those things will end up taking that first draft that you just said and turn it into something that I'm hoping is magical, that will motivate people to want to know more.
And all of that repetition is what also makes you better over time. And I think that what AI is taking away from us a lot of the times is the get the result, but you missing the way of getting there and all of the work that it took to get there that made it special. And there's something about it that you can feel. I love this analogy from Simon Sinek. He gave it on a podcast, which is, you imagine you get in an argument with your wife, and after the argument, you go downstairs and you type in the chat GPT, here's the argument, here's exactly what happened, what should I say? And then you just memorize and you go back to your wife and you say all the right things and you do it in all the perfect way. And then she says, did you put that in ChatGPT? And you go, yeah. How do you think that's going to go? Right. And
Mhm.
it's like, I feel like that's exactly how marketing is right now, where it's, we can feel it, we can sense it in a way that there's something not quite right. And I think the biggest thing is that people are not doing the work in order to get there. I mean, Colin knows this. How many documents do we get sent on a daily basis where it's like, I prepared this brief for you, and it's like 17 pages, and it's like, did you even read this? And it's just, they feel good because they did a lot of work, but there's a lot of value that's actually missing from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's interesting too because I kind of want to tie back to something you said at the start here, which was the shift to being the answer. This has kind of come up in so many conversations of mine, but it used to be when you were creating content, Google was the target, right? The goal
Mhm.
is to get found in Google. So a lot of content marketing efforts were kind of based around, how do we become Google's answer? How do we
Mhm.
take the keywords that people are searching for and then turn that into content so that we will show up? And I think that kind of made content really, really bad for a long period of time. I mean, it still is, because that's still what a lot of people are
Yeah.
doing. Like, if anyone's ever searched for a recipe for anything and seen the like, here's my life story about my grandma and 14 generations and all of this keyword stuff garbage, and there's a little teeny tiny recipe down at the end. Like, that's the most egregious example I can think of. But there's a lot of
Yeah.
that out there when it comes to every industry. And now I think the shift towards being the answer and actually having useful content that people want to engage with, want to
Mhm.
share, want to participate in. I think it starts with that authenticity and that polish and that human input. And then it also comes down to, I think, really understanding your audience. What are the questions they're actually asking? Because it might be super specific. They might not
Mhm.
type in a Google keyword prompt that's exactly phrased the way that you want to rank, but they'll probably have a conversation with Gemini on their phone. And if you've been creating really good content about what they are looking for and you become the answer for that, then you are not only getting traffic from that, but I think much more qualified, better quality traffic rather than just sheer volume.
We have access to the biggest brain that's ever existed in the history of humanity, and we're using it for shit, to be honest, right? And so let's go back to first draft, because what you just said there's magic in what you said. I want your listeners to not gloss over what you just said. You can use AI to ask what AI wants you to create, right? I love this. In fact, one of the things that we did at the tail end of my time at Proudmouth is we were creating FAQs on everybody's website, basically. So we were creating FAQ videos and shorts, right? Literally shorts for them to answer questions, because what people do is they ask Gemini a question. That's it. They ask a lot of questions. I do it all the time, right? And if I have the exact question in my FAQs and I answer that question, well, guess what? I'm showing up, and I'm showing up across the board, because people still Google stuff, right? But they're still, then they're doing stuff with AEO also. So when you look at, well, Matt, yeah, because I hear this all the time. Well, what content should I create? I don't know. Ask. My other favorite thing is, and we have this here from a software perspective, is you can use our system to ask similar questions. Like,
Mm.
hey, I want to create a monthly post on frequently asked questions. Go into all of my client meetings and see what the top 10 topics are and how I am having these conversations. But more important, here's the list. See, prompts need to be in depth. They can't just be simple. And what are my clients asking, and what language are they using to make me understand the question? Bam, dude. I mean, you just take that prompt, cut and paste it, throw it in your crap. It's unbelievable what happens, because now I'm using the actual questions they're asking, the language that my clients are using, to be able to create real engaging content that's going to get people to either, refer more business to me, give me greater share of wallet in financial services, or maybe just educate the general public. Maybe that's part of my mission as a financial services professional, but it applies across the board, right? The other thing that I think AI can really help you with is finding a niche and really diving deep into it. So I have an advisor friend of mine here in Kalamazoo. He's my advisor. And I'm not a podiatrist, but his focus is podiatrists, right? That's what he works with. And so because of a very systematic influence approach that I helped him build, he's now speaking at the AAPPM, the American Association of Podiatric Medicine. He's got a podcast with the president of that organization. He's starting to be featured in trade publications. But what we do is we will sit there and he'll have his computer open and my computer open, and we'll do some prompt engineering. We'll start asking AI questions. Okay, what is the number one concern of podiatric business owners? Right. And it was funny because we thought it was like some practice management stuff or whatever. No, it's being able to sell additional products and services. That's the biggest concern. By the way, that's every small business owner. That's what they want to do. But and so then we asked the question, what products and services are they trying to sell? And now we're creating content, right? Now we know that laser wart removal is a high profit thing that's very easy for them to implement in their practice. And that's something that we can go ahead and create content surrounding, being able to say, when you have a really great financial plan in place for your business, you will have extra capital to be able to purchase that laser. See, now I just dropped in that laser wart removal machine, and now they're like, oh, holy crap, I've always wanted a laser wart removal machine. And wait, you can help me get that? That's real marketing. Did we use AI? Hell yeah, we did. But is AI the be all and end all? Hell no.
That is such a great point. When we set up our ABM campaign, so account-based marketing campaign, we were very intentional with the way that we were using AI, because AI allows you to do two things when it comes to marketing. You can do a lot of quantity, or you can go very deep into quality. And I think that's exactly what you just mentioned, which is it helps companies do both, and you have to decide what kind of company you want to be. You want to just send 10,000 cold emails a day and just spray and pray people, or you actually want to go super deep into that one account that you're targeting, understand the exact customer at that account, exactly what their problems are, repeat the problems back to them, and then say, hey, we might have the solution here for you.
The video I shot today was for one of the big things that our company is getting into is life, health, and annuities. And one of the big things in life insurance is paperwork. It's a nightmare. Paperwork in insurance is the biggest issue forever. And what our system is able to do is, through a natural conversation with a client, fill out the paperwork. And so you're done, and all of a sudden your application is done, and this is done, and this is done, and the health service questionnaire is all done. It's all HIPAA and all that stuff. But that's the sort of stuff that just really helps with that. But with what you're saying too, I brought that up because one of the words that I use is NIGO. Okay, so that is a very specific insurance. It basically means that the parent company kicks it out. Like there's a problem with the paperwork and you didn't do it right. And what we've been able to find is when you use that word with insurance people, because that's like their biggest nightmare, because they do all this work, it takes hours of their team's time, and then that paperwork gets kicked back. Well, we've been able to reduce that exponentially because of the accuracy of the data, transfer. But here's the deal. If you didn't know that NIGO was one of the biggest issues in insurance, your marketing sucks because you
Yeah.
might be talking about something totally different. Like, hey, do you want to do, well, no, you want to sell this one product? No, that's not what we're talking about. We're solving the problems because what advisors are searching for is how to reduce NIGOs. Guess what? That video I just shot is now going to start showing up in your feed, dude, because you've been searching how to solve NIGOs. We just created content for NIGOs. And so I wish marketers really understood that level of nerdiness, that level of specificity that you have to have with the language surrounding your content is what makes good marketing great.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's such a great point too, because I think what's cool about AI is that it allows people to do that and to be that hyper specific. And for the guy who runs he's currently a plumber, but he sees every single plumber struggling with the same thing, and he just goes home and talks to Claude and makes a solution that actually solves that problem for all the plumbers. No, venture backed Series B startup would work on like that one thing for plumbers, but the one guy who has all the time actually can't do it, which actually goes back to what you were saying at the beginning with the what now. It's like, well, if I do my job faster, I can now find different ways to
Yeah.
actually deliver value on that. I want to kind of take a little pivot, CB, if you're okay with that,
Sure.
because we keep talking about just the web and how the web is going to change and how digital is going to change. Matt, I don't know if you're familiar with the dead internet theory. Have you heard of this?
My son has brought that up to me a couple of times. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So basically, just the easiest way to sum it up is that there's a theory that over time, the internet is just going to be bots talking to other bots. And we're starting to get there because right now it's a guy that made a post with ChatGPT, posting it on LinkedIn. And then the guy commenting on it is a guy that just took that post and said, give me a comment to leave. And then he just comments that. So right now,
Mhm.
people are still copy and pasting, but eventually it's just going to be bots talking to bots, which makes in real life experiences obviously more important. How are you thinking about that for influencers and people in your position, but also for Zoc specifically?
It's our whole model here. Right. And so part of what I suggested, and contractually, I agreed to do 2 conferences a month. Right. And so this is great. The bots can talk to bots all day long. Right. That doesn't solve a problem. Right. What solves a problem is when you have the opportunity to be influential and be around the people who you influence. So I believe the marketing pendulum is going to be swinging really hard in a different direction than it is right now, because I firmly believe that hyper-focused niche marketing events are going to be the key to growth in the future. And as a marketing agency, if you're not doing that, if you don't manage that for your clients, you're missing out on a humongous revenue opportunity and getting real, tangible, quantifiable results. So it's funny. I can go to an event that's let's say it's, which I don't do this because I only go to events that I'm influential in, but let's say I went to a podcasting event, right? Which I've done that before because I'm a podcaster. I'm a nerd about this stuff. Nobody knows who the hell I am, right? I'm just some schmuck who's done a bunch of podcasts, right? I mean, nobody knows me at all. But you have me go to a financial services event, and people like want to take pictures with me. And I mean, this isn't to be egotistical, this because it's marketing works, guys, right? And then all of a sudden, and here's how this works as an influencer, then they post your picture with them, tag you. Now I just gained access to their whole audience. So we call that the OPBA strategy, other people's audience. That's really where influencers win. Guess what? It's why I'm on your show, because I know that now I'm going to have opportunity to get to your audience, which I would not normally have had that in. And hopefully your audience is going to be like, hey, that Santa Claus looking weirdo is a really nice guy. I'd like to follow him on social, right? So, but that's the sort of stuff, this in-person stuff, that's where everything changes. All of your content should be driving to the opportunity for people to be in your presence, because people are lonely. People are lonely. I remember, so my kids are 23. I have twins, and one of them is like a kind of a social butterfly, and the other one is not. He's actually a computer programmer. He does IT. And so he was like, hey, daddy, I'm super excited. I'm meeting a whole bunch of my friends IRL. And I was like, I don't know what that means. I'm old, right? Whatever. And he said, in real life. And I was like, holy crap. Like you're meeting your online friends in person. And he's like, yeah, I haven't done that. I've known some of these people for years. And man, I cannot tell you how much that warmed my heart. Like I was first off so happy because yeah, everybody needs a tribe. He got back from this event and he's like, man, they were even better than I thought they were going to be. Right. Oh, this one guy was really taller and this other lady was way shorter than we were kind of giggling that, she's like a hobbit and he's really into Lord of the Rings stuff. But anyway, but that's the sort of stuff, guys, is the opportunity to drive people to these in-person events, hyper focused niche events is what is going to sway the world of marketing because everything else is going to be noise. There's already so much noise out there right now. AI generated slop that's everywhere, that's clogging up the algorithms. When you're taking time and you do 15 versions of the same video like I do before it goes live, when that video hits, it hits different. And when I'm, hanging around and I'm interviewing, people at conferences and I'm doing selfies and I'm up on stage or whatever, that's the sort of stuff that real marketing agencies are going to focus on because that's what's going to move the needle. It's not going to be another $1,000 for PPC or, to get another 50,000 impressions. Is that important for brand awareness? Absolutely. Does it really move the needle? Not so much.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. It's funny because I think your statement around like people are lonely, that's really true with what I hear. A lot of us are, working from home or we're, working hybrid in those environments. And there's that human element to business that I think a lot of people start to forget sometimes, which is people buy from other people they know,
That's it.
like, and trust. And if you are not creating opportunities
Yeah.
to get your potential customers to know, like, and trust you, you doing? I literally I have a widget on my home screen for my phone that's like just every now and again it's like a Gemini prompt that just says like just show me like events that are going to be near me related to my interests, like
Hmm.
Webflow marketing, like other like nerdy things because I am a massive nerd. But those things pop up and then I'm like, oh shoot, like there's a meetup for this thing. Shoot, I'll
Yeah.
go. I don't think I would have reached out for those things like in the pre-COVID world, but as the things have just shifted more and more to digital,
Yeah.
like I'm looking for those opportunities to connect with people because so much of my work happens behind a screen. So I
Hmm.
think as marketers, we kind of like I said, we can't be lazy here and just make another blog post. We need to make real, meaningful connection opportunities for people, and that does translate into real business value.
Yeah. A friend of mine, two ladies who started a company called Event Advisors. I've known them for quite a while, and they're event people, and they created a whole marketing thing around return on moments. And so, if you're the person who creates a memorable moment for
Mm.
clients or prospects, that changes everything. I mean, uh, so we used to do this. We used to call them passion prospecting events at my first consulting agency that I worked for. And what it would be is, so you want to attract ultra high net worth people, hold a private jet event where you go to your local private jet, which this exists, which is just amazing to me, whatever. The private jet person who sells and she will hold a private event and bring in whatever the Cessna, I don't know anything about planes, but anyway, and so that they can walk around and learn about the planes, right? Could you imagine if you were the person, you're a financial advisor and you've gotten your clients to have the experience of being able to shop for a private jet, because obviously you're in a very different ultra high net worth category. And if you're the person who helps sell that plane with that woman who is the airplane dealer, I guess that's what it sounds dirty, but whatever, airplane dealer, right? That woman is a friend for life. You ever want to call in a favor because she just got a $500,000 commission? Hell yeah, she's going to do that event. But it also is something fundamentally unique and different for your clients. And those are the moments. Like maybe some of those people have never stepped on a private plane. They don't know what that's like. They don't know what it's like to have that level of service or comfort or convenience. And if you're the person who brings that to people, yeah, I really firmly believe that event marketing, and I'm not talking about these huge, ridiculous conferences like I go to where there's 8,000 financial advisors there. I'm talking about what you're talking about, that meetup surrounding web analytics that's in Asheville, North Carolina, because, we love this crap and we're all going to sit around and totally nerd out. There's a place here in town where my son and I go on Friday nights. I'm a total nerd if you haven't noticed by my background here. But we actually play a miniature game, right? And it's so funny because they don't ever have to try to sell us anything. We walk in, and if in our miniature game, if there's a new miniature, we all buy it. And it's like $100, dude. And, they don't have releases all the time, but they give us an opportunity to have those moments to play with our little action figures that fight each other and, nerd out over Marvel stuff, right? That's super fun. That's the level of marketing that I think more agencies need to move to. And if you two, as agency owners, can help people get there, you guys, there's not going to be enough competition. You're not going to have competition because everybody's still trying to do the PPC, SEO, AEO, which is necessary. But what's really going to make the difference is getting butts in seats and having people like me who are influential at those conferences to be able to show that you really know what they're looking for.
There's one more kind of adjacent strategy to this as well that I really enjoy. It's gift-based marketing. So in real life gifts and sending things to people. And there's one, you guys are nerds, you probably know what this is. I don't even know what it is. I'll have to send it to you. But there's basically there was someone that posted on LinkedIn, and I guess the person that reached out to her did all the research on her and kind of like looked at her background and looked at her Instagram and found out that she really enjoys this video game. And send her like a real life replica, like a massive gun of the gun that they used in the video game, and was just like, hey, I know you enjoy this. Here's this thing. By the way, if you want to like do gift-based marketing for your company, it's what we do. Obviously, we're very good at it. Let's get on a call. And I think that trying to stand out from the noise, is there any better way than sending someone a massive toy replica gun in the mail? You're gonna at least get a call.
I mean, they're going to buy from you. I mean, there's no way. So there's a wonderful podcast. I don't know if it still exists much anymore. I listened to it many moons ago, called I Love Marketing. And it's got a guy from Strategic Coach and another guy whose name is totally escaping me, which is terrible. But one of the things that he talked about in the show is something very similar. He was trying to get to, as a marketing agency, to a CEO of a very, very big Fortune 500 company. And so he found out that she is an avid runner, like crazy distances, like ultra marathon. So he called up her assistant and said, hey, I know this is a weird question, but I want to send your boss a gift. Can you tell me what size shoes she wears? And that could be creepy. Like, people got some feet stuff, but whatever. So she said, she's a size 6 or whatever it was. I don't remember what it was. So what he did was he bought the best pair of ultra shoes that you could buy, but he sent her one in a box and said, if you want the other shoe, please call this number. And dude,
devious.
See, that's the devious as hell, right? But guess what? Of course, he wouldn't have told the story if he didn't get the business. But AI can also help you with that. So let's deconstruct what you just said there. Okay, so I'm trying to prospect this major company, and I know that person, maybe they're really into DC movies. They said something, and by the way, you can search this stuff. They said something somewhere about, the fact that they just went and saw the new Batman. It was the greatest thing they've ever experienced, right? So then you go in and say, okay, I need to send a gift to a total Batman nerd. Here's my price range. So again, specificity. Here's my price range. Here's how old they are. Here's where they are in their life stages. What would be a great appropriate gift? It'll tell you. You know what's crazy? It'll also probably give you a link to click on something to buy really easy, right? And you guys as a marketing agency, if you can help that be delivered, holy shnikes, man, because you're showing up as the solution. Solution-focused marketing is the key. I am solving the problem for your ideal target market. I'm the one who's helping you with that so that when they look for it, you show up. That's great marketing. And honestly, here at Zox, we're killing it with that. Like, it is unbelievable how hyper-focused our content is to really just get the attention and answer questions. I just shot a video today. In financial services, a lot of times, advisors after tax season will do what's called surge meetings. So they'll cram all of their, not all, like half of their book of business, and they'll just do meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, right? So that's really, really labor intensive and very hard to execute from a meeting prep follow-up, and also task-based perspective. Well, of course, Zox solves all of that because that's the system we've built, right? So with a click of a button, I can find out everything I need to know about Colin in order to prepare for the meeting. All of the things he was supposed to do, all the things I was supposed to do. What is he, where is his performance, blah, blah, blah. So that I walk in like a doctor pulling a chart off the wall, scanning it, shit, got it, bam, sit down. I have a great meeting with Colin. Then, of course, all of the follow-up, because you're doing 8 meetings a day, which some advisors do, it can take you weeks to do follow-up. Well, we do minutes. So guess what? I shot a video today talking about surge meetings because I'm using the language that advisors are using right now in their pouch. I'm dying. My surge meetings. Bam. Guess what? Here's Muppet. Here's Santa Claus telling you how you can use Ox in order to, help with your surge meetings. That's the level of focus that marketers really need to have. And honestly, if you want to see that in action, right, there are many people in financial services, because that's the world I live in, that you can follow. But if you want to see real influence marketing taking place really on a daily basis, have your audience take a look at me on LinkedIn, because I'm walking the walk, guys. I mean, this is who I am and what I do every day, all day, which, by
I
the way,
think
is a gift. I just want to say that I'm so lucky. Not, I mean, I did work my ass off to get here, but I'm so lucky that I landed in a place that allows me to really flex these muscles in the way that I'm able to flex them. So
I think that's actually a great segue. If folks want to engage with you or learn more about Zox, where's the best place to find you, find more information about Zox? Where can they connect and learn more from your content?
just go to LinkedIn, guys. If you literally type in Matt Halloran or Matt GPT Halloran, Matt Halloran Zox, there's only like 4 or 5 of us who are active on LinkedIn. I'm going to be on the first page. If you aren't looking at this, like you're not watching this as a video and you're just listening to this, if you find a guy who literally looks like Santa Claus in a ball cap, that's me. And I lean into that, guys, because listen, I have no hair. I can't grow a lick on the top of my head. And this is what makes people remember who I am. And I'm leaning into it. So.
I think that's brilliant. And actually, I wanted to ask about Matt GPT because I think that's excellent branding on your part. What's the story behind that?
Dude, I totally stole it. So
Really?
I totally did. So I am all over TikTok. Like, I love it. I think it's, well, because I loved Vine and then it went away. And so TikTok is Vine 2.0. And I follow this woman named Cat GPT, and all
Yeah.
she does is teaches you about prompts. And she's brilliant. She's great at marketing, but she's very, very clear and able to take really complex things and put it into a 2-minute video. And so when I got here, I was like, Cat, Matt. So I looked it up, and unfortunately, there are a couple of other people who go by Matt GPT, but not in financial services. So I wasn't going to piss anybody off. And I asked my powers that be here at Zox if they were okay with that, and they're like, "You're going to lean into that." I was like, "Hell yeah, let's lean into that." So I start a lot of my videos with, "Hey, this is Matt GPT," and I also, this was important because I was the podcasting guy, right? So I'm literally the OG of podcasting and financial services. That's who I am. That's what I'm known as and was for almost 10 years, right? And so when you're an influencer and you have to make that pivot, you have to find a way to make that pivot so that people accept the pivot, right? Which there were people who were like, what the hell are you doing? You don't know anything about AI. And I'm like, well, actually, just so you know, we built custom AI at Proudmouth. We did, right? I've been using AI since GPT was public and I was allowed to use it. I just never really talked about it because so many of you were afraid of it. So anyway, so that's where Matt GPT, I totally stole it from a lady on TikTok. By the way, you should follow her. She's unbelievable.
She's great.
She's great. Yeah. You even know who she was. Yeah. You see, I mean, it's a hook. So yeah, that's where.
Brilliant. I mean, good artists copy, great artists steal.
Hey, it's
Just look at Apple.
flattery, dude, right? Yeah. I'm sure she's like, I don't know who that guy is. But anyway, I'm very impressed. She's brilliant. So.
Fantastic. Well, we are kind of wrapping up here for today. Thank you so much, Matt, genuinely for your time today. There's so much value, and I feel like we could easily turn this into a 3-hour long conversation and still not exhaust all the topics. But I think some of the key things that I'm going to take away here, and then there's so much. I am sure there is more that you want to talk through as well. But main things that I'm kind of going to be thinking about after this would be what you kind of described is really consistent with what I've seen. And I think context is a huge wedge, huge advantage that is being underutilized, not only for marketers, but I'd say people in product, people in sales, people in every department of business. You have the context, you have your meeting notes, you have your own intelligence, you have your own insights, your point of view, your domain knowledge that you've been accumulating over years. When you start collecting that and you bring it into an AI tool, whether that's ChatGPT, Claude, the tools that are provided in Zox, which can give you an even more advantage. Once you start connecting these pieces together, it becomes not just a content slot machine, it becomes a thinking partner, something that can help you accelerate to getting a great first draft and then put yourself into it, create human-led content that people will want to engage with, whether that's video content, whether that's an in-person event. Find where your audience is, the things that they're asking. You know these things. You can bring this to an AI tool of your choice and get to a great first draft, then refine it, polish it, make it excellent, and get it out there. Those are the things I'm going to be thinking. Yeah, yeah. Well, there was so much. I'm sure there is stuff that I glossed over. What were your biggest takeaways?
Mine will be a little bit different, Matt. It's just I am obsessed with people finding what they're supposed to be doing in this life. And in a past life, I helped a buddy of mine who was a videographer, and I'll never forget this moment. He was shooting a concert, and he asked me, "Hey, can you just like come and like hold a camera for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So I was actually on stage. It was a very small show, small band, and there was a guy in the back who was playing a saxophone. And there was one part of the show where all of a sudden all other music stopped. Spotlight on him. He walked up. He actually kicked off his sandals and was just barefoot on stage. And he just went so hard with that saxophone that I dropped the camera. I forgot to continue filming because I was just goosebumps on my entire body. And you embody that for this. There's something that I try to remind myself of when starting the day. And all of us are very blessed as to what we get to do here. This one day will be the last day that I get to do this, but that day is not today. And so I'm going to enjoy this one. And you brought that energy here today, Matt. Like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. So honestly, just thank you for showing up. Thank you for what you do. And thank you for bringing that energy to the show today.
Listen, man, tomorrow's not a gift that's promised to everybody. So let's try to make today the best one we can. Thank you guys for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Matt.
man.